Hey guys, so a patent that Nintendo basically filed back in June was published today and is made public, and it was all about the Switch. And what's great about this is it actually gives us a lot of insight and a good look, honestly, a really good look at what the Switch is all about and what we can expect from it. Now, not everything in this patent is absolute. A lot of it is, not a lot of it, but some of it is labeled as optional, so it's not to be taken as absolute. But there is some stuff in here that we can take as absolute, and we'll get into that right now. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the Joy-Con itself. There's obviously two of them. One of them appears to be more functional than the other in terms of full system use, like when it's all completely together or when they're together, and that's the right Joy-Con. Now, I'll show you some pictures here real quick. And the first thing I want to bring up is that they do have gyro support, which is cool. And then they also have shoulder buttons on the top. I was a little worried about the shoulder buttons. Completely. I wasn't sure about, I guess, how they were going to make it so you could do Super Nintendo controllers without those shoulder buttons. Well, they were actually hiding. They're actually on that sled part that would slide into the system, more than likely so that because when you hold the tablet, you would be pressing those, obviously, with your palms. Well, they actually hid them there, which is a really good place to put them. That's actually really neat. And then they also have IR pointers on there too, so we will have that functionality, much like what a Wii remote would give us, and that's good for emulating the touchscreen essentially on the main screen if we need to. So if you need to, like, I don't know, wipe something off like you would with Uncharted, for example, you can do that with the IR pointer. Not that that's super practical, but it would at least function and get you past a small part of the game, and you wouldn't get stuck. Both Joy-Cons appear to have rumble motors in them, and I was saying the right Joy-Con appears to be more functional. It also has NFC, and like I said, the IR sensor is on that right Joy-Con as well. I think a lot of us were also worried when we looked at the Joy-Con that there was no actual D-pad on it. It looked to be like buttons replacing the D-pad, which was weird. Well, it's interesting, they actually put a picture out for a second Joy-Con. I don't know if this is going to be packaged with the system or if it's going to be a separate purchase, or if the one with the buttons will be packaged, the one with the D-pad will be packaged. It looks like one of them you'll have to buy separately more than likely, and the other one will be packaged with it. But there is going to be a Joy-Con that has a D-pad that comes with it. It's a big concern if we're using buttons instead of D-pads. That might be a little odd, especially for games like if they do get fighting games at all, even like a Street Fighter or a BlazBlue, there's a lot of stuff that may be difficult to play with just those buttons. One that wouldn't, I guess, is Mortal Kombat, because that doesn't use rolls from what I remember. It uses just straight D-pad presses. But I'm glad to see that they are using D-pads. And now let's move over to the system itself. Now, it does have, from what they are saying, a touch screen. It has a touch screen and then a touchpad controller. Now, a lot of people saw the touchpad controller, and I think they got a little confused, or they weren't too sure. That's basically a control chip, or a set of control chips that will basically control essentially the touchscreen, where you're touching, multi-touch, depending sometimes how long you're pressing and holding. All of that stuff has to be controlled, and that's what that touchpad controller is. It'll basically control where you're pressing. I think a lot of us already knew that there was probably going to be a touchscreen there. It would be weird if they made a tablet like that, of that functionality, without a touchscreen. It's just nice to see here that we basically have confirmation that there is going to be one in there. Also, there's another slide that actually showed the tablet being played with 4 Joy-Cons. So they did at least have 4 of them synced up. Those are 4 half Joy-Cons or 2 full ones. I don't know. They didn't really make mention of more than that being synced up or able to be synced. But since Smash Bros. Had 8-player Smash, I assume there's going to be a way to at least hook up 8 controllers to the system, including the Joy-Cons. Whether that be, we do get the adapter does work with the back of it. You can then hook up GameCube controllers with it as well. But it looks like we can at least have 4 people playing on the tablet. It showed 4 people playing on the 6-inch or so, 6-point whatever inch screen. That seems a little crazy for a split screen, because then everyone gets like 2 inches of screen. But of course, you're going to probably plug it into the TV. So it's just funny that they decided to show it that way. Now, in the documentation, there's also mention of there being a console mode when it's plugged in, and then a portable mode. Now, we've pretty much beat this to death. We already figured out that there would probably be a turbo clock frequency or something when it's plugged in and the battery's eliminated. And then when it's removed from the dock, it, of course, uses the battery. So that's bit of a bottleneck for the CPU GPU to run on. And again, they just basically talk about it here. They also talk about it being possible to put the tablet into the dock either way, so you can switch it around. That to me confirms USB-C, because that's the only connector I know of other than a lightning cable that lets you do that. If it was like a micro USB, which wouldn't be able to carry data like this through anyway, you have to plug it in a certain way. So at this point, USB-C is all but confirmed. The only way that they probably won't even tell us at the conference that it's USB-C. We'll probably know when we actually get the system and look directly at the port. But yes, it looks like USB-C is just about confirmed. And one part, the patent also talks about a sleep mode, which again, it makes sense. I mean, we do need sleep mode for things like Street Pass, and it is a tablet form factor with a lot of parts that appear to be mobile. So of course you're going to get that functionality with the CPU being ARM, able to basically go to sleep with their more efficient cores and give you long battery life. And we're talking days of battery life. So if you go on a trip and you want to take it with you, let's say you go to let's say you go to Comic-Con or something and you want to take it with you just to do Street Pass, because most of those conventions you get a ton of Street Passes, like a ton. And that makes more sense because the 3DS, while in sleep mode, it would last a good bit of the day. We're talking in standby mode, this thing could last days depending on the size of the battery, and that's good to have that sleep mode there. But I thought that was pretty obvious. But again, they do talk about it in the patent, so we might as well talk about it. Also, they show a page about that Joy Grip that the JoyCons slide into. And what's interesting about that is they do label the center part as essentially a battery. So what's good about this is we will have what looks like almost like a Pro Controller type setup where you have it on either side, and they do have the center part being a battery. Now, that battery could do a couple things. Could charge the controllers, and then also, if the controllers are mostly charged, just add additional battery life to it, where we could actually get like legit battery life out of those two Joy-Cons. So that's pretty cool. I'll probably spend most of the time, honestly, if I take the Joy-Cons off, I don't think I'm going to hold them in either hand like this. I think I probably will drop them in that grip or whatever grip they sell. They had other grips as well, looking like third-party ones. So we'll see. I probably will just drop it in that grip though and use that extra battery life. And guys, this is the big thing, the big surprise of this entire patent. Of course, things looking like the Joy-Con and stuff was cool to see, but the biggest surprise that I could tell anyway, maybe you guys saw something else that surprised you, was the possibility of VR. Now, I had thought about this, and I thought about actually doing a video about this a while ago. Didn't really think Nintendo would go this route, so I didn't record anything about it. I had the idea, though, that they could do this because it is a tablet. It is mobile, essentially, to use an HMD, which is a head-mounted display. And what that is, if you've seen, for example, the Samsung VR, you've probably seen those commercials where they're putting their phone into the actual head mount, they're putting it on, and then they're looking around because they're in like a VR world. Well, it's not a bad idea. I mean, it does work. It's not like it doesn't work as well as, say, Oculus or Vive or anything like that, but it does work. Now, I have some concerns about this VR possibility, and I'm going to talk to you about them real quick. My biggest concern is the resolution of the tablet is probably not going to be what they need it to be to give you a really good experience. Now, if what we're to believe is that the screen is 720p, it's going to get very close to your face, and then it's going to cut the screen in half, which is going to then half that resolution, essentially. And this is what a lot of the big companies are struggling with, is resolution, because you need a very powerful computer to push that resolution. Now, VR on the Samsung works because of their resolution being at least decent. You know, the screens on those things have higher resolutions, but when they go into VR mode, they will sometimes downscale the resolution if they need to. The Switch, however, will be stuck at that 720p resolution, again, what we believe anyway, and you're going to see pixels easily. It's going to look blurry at times, but the trade-off here is that head-mounted display, or that VR, is going to be cheap. It's not going to be expensive because it essentially is a piece of plastic that you put the device into. We've seen this before. There's a lot of places you can go on eBay, and you can buy one of these for your phone, your Android phone, your iPhone, whatever, and it'll fit, and you can actually already experience this now with your phone. This tablet, though, is very large as well, which kind of concerns me because that's also going to stretch the image when it's close to your face. It's like it's supposed to be over a 6-inch screen, essentially, like 6.2 or something like that. And when it's in there, it's going to stretch that 720p screen, and it's going to cut it in half, and then it's going to be stretched even further. So they're basically going to cut it into two pieces. Each eye is going to see a different piece, and it's going to offset slightly so that you get that 3D effect. And like I said before, it works. You can get it now and try it. I've already tried them with my phone. I've tried it with a friend's Galaxy phone, an iPhone, and it does work. They also had like Google Cardboard, which is you literally build it out of cardboard for like $5 or $10, and you know, it's not as nice as what you'd see with the Vive, but keep in mind the Vive is $800, and then you also need probably around an $800 to $1,000 computer to run it well. And that's interesting to see that Nintendo could be selling a headset for anywhere from $40 to $50. You buy it, and all of a sudden you have VR for your Switch, which is interesting. You already have the hardware. Now you can do VR with it. And, it's not a bad idea. It's almost like, why not, from Nintendo, because it's so cheap to do, to be honest. I mean, most of the programs already exist for it. And I'm sure NVIDIA is well aware of this and probably already set up custom API settings and everything for VR to work. But the pitfalls are there, I will say that. And there's a lot of other things that go into it. There's like screen door effects. There's people could actually get sick depending on if the frames aren't high enough, like if frame rate gets kind of low, or if it's not stable frame rate, if they jump all over the place, like up down for like you go from 60 to 40 to 30 to 35 to 30. People can get sick. Like you would need to keep Dramamine with you when you play your game, which seems kind of weird. But some people get sick from first-person shooter games, so it's a trade-off. But I like the idea of VR in this thing. I think it would be very cool to do things like walk through Hyrule Castle, or walk through the fields of Hyrule, or play Metroid. Oh, can you imagine Super Metroid? Like when the helmet comes on and you have all the HUD displays come up and everything. Oh, that'd be awesome. You do first-person Metroid on just like an isolated planet with all like the ice creature stuff. It'd be so great. There's just a lot of things they could do with VR if they really want to do it. And that's what's going to come down to is, can they squeeze that kind of power out of the system and give them a good VR experience? Now, the big thing that a lot of people will probably run into, depending on we still don't know how heavy this tablet is, but if you take a 6-inch tablet, put it on the front of your face hanging off, there is a good chance that you will get fatigued from it, only because, remember, it's hanging from here, your neck is essentially supporting it. Now, I don't think they're going to give us a Virtual Boy type stand, and if they do, that's going to be kind of weird, because the diagram shows it being strapped to the back of your head, like most of them are, and I could potentially see it getting a little heavy for people, especially if it's like a younger kid. Maybe it's like an 11 or 12-year-old. I could see that being very difficult for them to hold the VR unit up, because at that point, like I said, you're holding it with your head and your neck, this 6-inch tablet that could weigh not a lot in your hands, but it could weigh a lot on a hinged neck. Like your neck actually could get hurt or sore even from it, which seems weird to play a video game and your neck gets sore, but it could happen. That's the other thing they're going to have to kind of look out for. Maybe they could figure out a way to support it. It would look also really dumb if they had it come off onto your shoulders like this, where you have like a neck brace looking thing holding the VR unit up, but they have to figure out a way, if it gets too heavy, to fix that. So again, though, I like the idea of VR being implemented. This sheet of all this stuff, there's so much stuff. I will put a link down here in the description for you guys to the NeoGAF forum where they're talking about it. There is so much stuff there, and we're going to be sifting through it, I'm sure, for days, looking for any of the littlest thing we can. But the biggest implementation that I could find was the VR headset, and that was a big surprise, I think, to a lot of people. So definitely go over, check it out for yourself, read through it. There's just so much stuff to look at, so many diagrams, so many drawings. It's insane. But check that out. Big news for the Switch today, though, guys. We still have a while to wait, about a month or so, maybe a little less, but I'm ready for January now. I'm sure you guys are. But yep, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning for Newswave, and definitely check out, I think tomorrow, like I said, tomorrow's Friday, I'm going to try to have the podcast section set up, and you'll be able to even download an episode like this, just for audio. So I will see you guys tomorrow morning, though.